Well, where do you want to jump in, bud?
Yeah, we left our conversation kind of talking a little bit about some challenges or, just personal things or even just, things that are popping up for me. And so I sat down and just kind of thought a little bit the last few days about kind of where I'm at, a little bit of my journey, and then maybe looking forward a little bit. So I think, part of some of my challenges right now are just really trying to find, I wrote down the word passion, right? So for me, I've spent the last 16 years, selling technology to dentists and just kind of worked my way through some different opportunities doing that. And the last 10, I've just really been bouncing around and trying to figure out, hey, where is my next good solid move? I spent 5 years with a good mentor, a good leader, a good sales guru, a good product, and then wanted to really search for more. And I think a lot of that had to do with maybe some better financial gains, maybe just more product, maybe just some different challenges. And I still haven't been able to recreate what I had, for those first 5 years, the last 10. So I've taken some chances with some startups. I've taken some opportunities that I knew were going to be just short term. And here I am, kind of halfway through my career going, hey, what's the next 20 years going to look like? And it's a little frustrating to not be able to be 100% like just all in, passion driven, like motivated to really, there's certain things that I do like and certain things that I don't, but I feel like I've just kind of come into this, um, oh, every day is kind of the same routine. It's like, hey, where is that passion behind? And what's that led me to do is try other things and try different side hustle things. But I think for me, there's an entrepreneurial spirit because inside of these companies that I've worked for, I've managed my own territories. I've basically franchised my own business, whether it's been smaller geography or larger geography or working, multiple states. And so I think, at the end of the day, I've had a taste of what it's like to kind of work for yourself under a bigger umbrella, but still kind of under, that company portfolio. And so therein lies some of the things that I've tried to do maybe on my own to separate from that corporate veil and try to become my own boss or, create different streams of income or really maximize different talents that maybe I have, whether it's a myriad of different things. We talked a little bit about some real estate, shoot, just, trying and researching different opportunities, whether it was, you and I connected a long time ago about financial services, right? So
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like, where can I take a lot of these skills that I've learned? So sales and marketing and communicating and, whether it's, building things or helping people, and kind of putting that all together and more of, not to be cliche, but more of a passion project for me, right? And so
Yeah.
it feels a little bit more like, hey, there's the motivation because I'm really excited about everything that I'm doing from day to day. So,
Let me ask you a question about something that you
yeah.
said. So you said that you had a mentor, there was a period of 5 years, and then you've 10 years outside of that. But was that the point where you felt that 5 years, that mentorship, whatever that role or job was that the point where you felt most fulfilled, like you were closest to that passion project? Describe that for me. What were you doing and what was that day to day life like for you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think that individual, kind of wrapped his arms around me at a young age and really helped me educate, challenge, and teach me stuff that I'd never even realized were possible and made me uncomfortable too, right? Like put me in situations, but constantly motivated me, constantly supported me, constantly challenging me. And I still, connect and reach out with that individual, a couple times a year, whether it's a phone call or a golf match or whatever. And yeah, I think it was somebody that, maybe I'm still kind of trying to chase a little bit of what that person kind of gave me in terms of those things, right? educating, keeping me challenged. In terms of all of the things that he provided. But at the end of the day, I felt like what I was doing with that position was I'd kind of reached a situation where I was like, well, I need a little bit more from this. Now,
You reached a
uh,
ceiling, basically a
I,
ceiling.
I
And
yeah,
and what was the role? What were you doing? What was your job?
so that company, we manufactured a single product and we sold that through distribution in the dental space. And at that time, I had a small sales territory. I had a regional manager role where I was mentoring and taking care of about 5 or 6 reps. And then I was working on international work as well. So I was opening up distribution. So I was really doing a lot of things that I wanted to do at the time. Um, there were some personal things that really popped up, and for me, made my choices a little bit more relevant too. So what I wanted to do at that time was that's what I'd committed to, propose to Michelle and decided, hey, the travel aspect of what I was doing at that time, I wanted to be a little bit more close to home, and the way that that organization was set up was, you from the top down, everybody traveled a ton, and that was just what we did at that company. And so I was, I'd done very well with the company. Had been promoted and made good money and was um, at a level to where, I probably could have stayed and wrote some things out, but I'd also, reached a point where it was like, okay, well, I think that there are bigger, better opportunities out there for me, um, not only personally, but financially, as well as we sold one product and I had become a master of that product after 5 years and was
Yeah.
like, hey,
Yeah.
I'd learned a lot about the industry. Um, I learned a lot about sales. I learned a lot about one product. I learned a lot about managing. I learned a lot about manufacturer distribution relationship. And so I was like, okay, let's branch out and see where these experiences can take me.
Yeah. So reached a point where you felt like you weren't being challenged any longer, and I totally understand that. When you reach that point, every day starts to feel like Groundhog's Day. It starts to feel like the same story over and over again. And I've had too much experience in that realm. But let me transition. So when you think
Yeah.
about your passions, um, I want you to imagine a scenario under which let's say currency's out of it. Let's say the world is so dramatically changed because of either AI or some sort of external event where currency isn't the issue. We're a communal society, and you're not going to get paid to do anything, but yet you have a certain skill set, a certain pursuit that seems to drive you. And if you had to employ yourself in a community that didn't pay you money, yet you were able to contribute to the community in a meaningful way based on your particular skill sets, what would be the number one, number two, number three thing that you would find yourself doing? Another way to say that is if you had unlimited money, what would you pursue personally as an avocation or to fill your time that you would feel satiated by that? Have you given thought to that, or do you have any answers for me in that regard?
Yeah, no, I think I enjoy helping people. I've always been kind of a natural leader. I've been put in positions, even going back to high school, I was the, chapter FFA president my senior year. And, I've always tended to be in scenarios and positions where um, people have gravitated towards, me helping them in some way. And so I think being in some type of leadership role, and being able to help people fulfills me a ton.
Mhm.
If I look at what I do now with more sales, I like the highs. The lows are low, but I like chasing. I think I always sum this up, Sean, like I'm a very competitive person.
Yeah.
Uh, Michelle doesn't like to play cards with me because I get very loud and competitive or board games, right? But it's like
Yeah.
I really,
Like to
really,
win.
I hate to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
No, I
know.
get it. I totally
It,
understand.
and so I think, looking at helping people. I've recently gone through, some job changes and was let go in December and went through this whole job hunt. And I've got a brother that's going through it now, and I've got other peers that I've talked to about, their situations. And, I feel like I'm good at interviewing and finding. I've had 10 jobs in the last 10 years, right? So I've been recruited for some. I think my experience has helped, but I'm good with talking with people. I've been in roles in the past where even prior to being in sales, where I managed teams and groups. And so I think, yeah, if you take everything away, I do get a good feeling around helping people, leading people, and then seeing the results, right? It's a challenge, but also I'm seeing that process come to fruition, right? So
Have
um,
most of your jobs been sales oriented?
yeah, the past 16 years they've all been pretty much. I mean, I did have some management roles, but within within most of these sales jobs, there's been smaller little, and whether it's like little group leadership roles or things, or for one role I had, we were implementing Salesforce, so I was the leader for our region. So I'd get on private calls and come back and present to the group. I don't mind presenting. I don't see a future of doing a lot of public speaking, but I play guitar. I'm a musician. I like to sit around and play guitar for people. Like I like being in situations where I can light up a room. I feel like that's a fun place to be. I like to have fun, and I'm very personable. Michelle always makes a joke. Here comes Mayor Nick. Because I like to talk to everybody. I like to introduce myself to people and say hi. And that's the easy thing for me. I've always done that, whether I've been in sales in this role or in shoot, I spent, almost 10 years bartending prior to getting into dental sales or working in restaurants. And, so I haven't been shy meeting people, those kind of things, right? So that's just, I guess if you had to kind of look at some of the things that I enjoy doing, right? Or maybe there's a little more passion behind.
Now, let me
Uh,
ask you a question. Have you gotten to a point in sales where some of the excitement, some of the ether, some of that juice of the chase and the hunt and some of that where that's worn thin for you? Does it become because let me give you an example, and I'll
yeah,
frame it this way personally. After 35 years of being in sales myself, I got to the point where I was tired of always right, wrong, or indifferent. I'll just be candid. I was tired of looking at people as an opportunity for
sure.
me somehow,
Yeah,
some way,
yeah, yeah,
versus, having this conversation right now that it feels light years different than that. And so I got to a point where I was tired of, imagining new people I met or introducing myself to new people. And the whole premise of it is, in order for me to win, in order for me to be successful, in order for me to make money, I had to either talk to them, convince them, persuade them, educate them to the point where a decision was made, where a product or service was purchased by me. And I think that got long in the tooth for me.
sure.
Is that something that you're feeling or not yet?
I don't feel, or I wouldn't describe it those ways, to where I feel like I think there's different avenues or different ways to sell, or the way and the products that I represent at this standpoint, um when they are, let's say they're delivered, and the doctors or the dentists are using them. There's a lot of advantage, and there's a lot of education, and it helps with it's technology driven, so that integrated right, there's a lot of benefit to not only the clinician but the patient. And so um, that part I enjoy. I think the the challenges have been a lot of the issues that those products bring up, being technology, right? Your cell phone works every time you use it, right? No, it doesn't. So I think it's dealing with a lot of, I mean, if I didn't have to deal with a lot of if I just had to concentrate on sales, right? And I was building those rapport and I was getting the product sold. And I think right now the biggest thing for me is I've sold okay tier products, tier two. I haven't had the number one, like I haven't been selling the Mercedes of this technology. Now, the first company I the work for that 5 years where we were manufacturing one product, which was a camera. That was the other thing, maybe that's something to do with it, is we were the number one biggest market share. We were also the most expensive. But therein lies there was a lot of issues with the product as well. So I enjoy the sales process. I don't know if I've always been in love with sales, to be honest with you. I don't think I'm like, God's gift to sales. I enjoy, so, kind of going back, I do like the hunt. Like I like the hunt, right? Because um, I like the challenge there. But yes, maybe some of the minutia that comes with it. I don't look at it like I'm tired of persuading or tired of, trying to get people to do what I want. I think that's at least in this industry that I'm in, it's more like, hey, look, I know I can help you, so let me help you.
Yeah.
And if they choose a different product, it's up to them, right? But because
Yeah.
it's very competitive in my space, just like in any space, like it is what it is. But I feel like I'm confident in the fact that we've got a good solution and I can support them if they choose to work with me. So I wouldn't say that as much, but I mean, I also look at it like I still have a lot to learn, and that's the best part about, the best part about
True.
um, everything that I've done is like every day's a new challenge. There's always something new popping up. You're always learning different stuff. I didn't go to dental school. I'm not a clinician. I've never, been chair side, quote unquote, like working on a patient. So there's a lot of different and things are constantly evolving and changing. So I think there's probably a good combination of where I could sell and teach and learn and help educate because part of, the sales process is also going in and training and
Yeah.
supporting
Yeah.
but there's also a lot of the fixing and technology issues that can get a little, daunting as well.
Yeah. So let me put it to you this way. I had a mentor once tell me relative to, you're doing what you were purposed with doing on this planet, like your passion, et cetera, that it leaves signs. There's markers. Okay. And two of the markers that I was told that are a good indication for you that your purpose in being passionately pursuing whatever the avocation is would follow as such. Number one, when you do whatever it is that you're doing, time speeds up. Okay, it's like in a flash. You do something for an hour or half a day or whatever, and it felt like a fraction of that time. That's one clue. The other clue is that when you're done doing whatever it is that you're doing, that you feel almost more energized. That if you came into it at a energy level of 6, by the time you're done with it, you're at an energy level of 9. That was really important information for me relative to this conversation because the best example that I can give you of where I experience that now is in radio.
Yep.
And when I get on the mic, when I like, especially when I'm live, when I'm live and on the mic, man, an hour seems like it's 10 minutes. And by the
Sure.
time I'm done, I'm just juiced. I'm ready to go. What's next? Let's do it again, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I've wondered a lot about my own life that way. Why was I born? Why was I born in this age? Why was I born to be alive in 2025? What is my purpose in life? Because I've chased the money. Part of what I hear you saying is that, the pursuit of leveling up, more financial stability, more financial success, that's probably precipitated some of these job changes that you have. And I totally get that. And I've had the great fortune and extreme luck and experience to have attained some level of success in three completely different businesses that I had. But it really wasn't until I would say the last 6 or 8 months that I really feel like as a 54-year-old male now, having had all of these different experiences, having been a financial advisor for 22 years, flipped houses for 3.5 years, owned an energy company for 5, 6 years. It wasn't until I started coaching and mentoring and doing this work right now where I felt like all of my life experience up to this point has led me to me today feeling as confident as ever that I'm living my purpose by doing what I'm doing right now. So I
Mhm.
say that to you because when you think biblically, when you think about your faith or whatever, I mean, Moses wandered around in the desert for 40 years, right? Like we all have this time urgency to try to, I want to know what my passion is today or tomorrow or whatever. And I feel like for me, I had to go through what I went through to prepare me for the opportunity that I'm existing in now, to prepare me for this season. And so number one, I would encourage you to be patient.
Mhm.
That's a big thing. I mean, I understand the pursuit, but maybe God is working on you right now through this process, through these 10 different jobs, through this soul searching pursuit right now, so that you can be ready. Because I didn't draw this out. I didn't list this as this is what I was going to do. This was not part of Sean's master plan. If anything, this whole, mentoring thing was a really strong prompting in my spirit earlier this year that I just decided to act on. And when I acted on it, it's like if God leads you to it, he'll see you through it kind of thing. When I acted upon it, I immediately got confirmation that there's a need and that there's a desire and I enjoy it. And the conversations I'm having, there's a different conversation when you're uplifting somebody up, encouraging them, shining a light forward on the path that they may be able to pursue, and you see it connect with them and you see the change that starts occurring in them, versus contrasting, I sold Jim a solar system or I helped Frank, plan for his retirement, but it's not the same thing. It feels differently. So I think time is an important component. I think your present life experiences and how you're navigating those experiences is an important component of it. And I think you need to do, my suggestion to you would be, if you can't right now clearly articulate what you think your special gifting is. Okay. So,
Yep.
so if I asked you what your gifting is, would you be able to tell me what that gifting is? Because a lot of people don't really know. And the challenge is that we live with ourselves 100% of the time. We don't know any different. We are who we are. We think we're normal because we live who we live, right? Like I think I'm normal. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday and I looked at him one day, and he's a mentor client of mine and he's a phenomenal musician. He's 70 years old and the guy just plays guitar like nobody's business. And I said to him, I said, I'm kind of jealous that your gifting is so obvious. And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, look at you. Look at your talent. Look at your gifting. It's so obvious to me why God put you on this planet. Like you're a great musician. He's all, it's so obvious to me what your gifting is, Sean. I wouldn't have responded to you the way you articulate yourself on the radio, the way that you facilitate the dialogue, the way that you explain things, the way that you keep somebody interested throughout the whole show. And I got chill bumps and I was like, whoa, what a different kind of perspective, because I'm just me. I live with me. I do me all the time. I don't think me is special, right? So if you're not aware of what your gifting is or what your very unique talents are, I would encourage you to go to the people that know you the best, that love and care for you, that want the best for you, and just prompt them with a series of questions. What do you think I'm really good at that most people aren't? What do you think I have as a skill set or as attributes that most people don't? Because you may not see what others see, and that might help you to then spark, an idea of, wow, I didn't even consider that, or I hadn't even thought about that. I think that might help you to kind of narrow in on a course direction of where, God or your own acumen or whatever you want to call it might lead you.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's been a challenge for me. I've never really known what I want to do. I went to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I got a degree in hotel management because it was by chance. I started as a communications major and ran into a friend and goes, "Hey, I'm trying this out. You should come with me," and enrolled in those classes. Got into bartending because it was good money and easy to do, and I knew a few people working in the restaurants. Got into dental sales through the same buddy I graduated college with. So yeah, I don't, yeah, it's a good way to put it into perspective there because I think that's something that I am chasing is trying to figure out what is that gifting or, what are some of those things that I'm good at that maybe I don't see or maybe I haven't given myself enough credit for.
I think that's one of the challenges for a lot of folks. I think especially if you're in your mid 40s, 50s and that age like when I graduated, I mean, you had to be out by 18. At least my dad wanted me, at least I wanted to be out by 18, and then you're forced into the job world, and I did some college but never got a degree, and I just wanted to chase life and pursue it, and I think a lot of people do, and one of the problems is that sometimes people get stuck. They all go try this for a year and they do the same year 20 times. 20 years
Yep.
later, they're in a job that now they feel stuck in because they got to be providing, they need the income, they got a mortgage payment, kids, a wife, car payments, stuff like that. And then that whole pursuit of what I was purposed with doing on this planet becomes secondary because it's all about financial responsibility. So, that can be a challenging circumstance. But a couple of things that you said that I want to regurgitate back to you just for a moment. Um, Number one, you sound very, very much like somebody that should be running his own business. Because with 10 different business experiences that you've had, with the ability to have somebody fire you, what I love about being an entrepreneur is nobody can fire me. You know what I mean? Like it is my business. I think there's some
Sure.
advantages to that. In sales, back when I used to sell cars. It's one of the first jobs I had that really made any kind of decent money. And I did so well at selling cars that I threatened the management because I was making as much money as guys that had been in the business 20, 25 years. And so then they started to cut my pay plan and change it. And that was the first time I felt like a marionette with strings and someone else was controlling my life.
Yep.
So I actively pursued wanting to do my own thing, be my own boss, run my own business, pursue it the way I want it, build it the way I want it. You are a very strong candidate for entrepreneurship in my mind. Finding the right way to live that or to pursue that, I think is going to be, an ongoing discussion. But I do see you being entrepreneurial because if you add that into it, you get time flexibility. Money is what you make of it, however you make it.
Yep.
Nobody can fire you. Nobody can terminate you. It's like that is it's not without peril. I'll say
Yeah, no.
I don't want to assume or make you think that it's not without major Herculean effort, and
Of
it will
course.
push you if you don't manage it the right way. But
Of
I think
course.
the upside is far greater than the downside.
Right.
So I don't know if you've earnestly tried to pursue that or in what forms you have or haven't, but you strike me as meant to be an entrepreneur. That's my read based on what you've said to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think therein lies how does that pursuit look like? What does that? And I think, the last 5, 10 years I've tried different small things, but I just haven't, sat down and really um understood the gifts that I have and then maybe where I can, pursue that path a little bit stronger. I think, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think anybody that's become an entrepreneur has taken plenty of steps back and been on the brink of wanting to go back and getting a job or, wondering why they're spending so much time doing it. But then, everybody crests this, at least, the books and podcasts and people that I learn and watch YouTube videos on you, right? It's like they get to that point where, all right, something clicks and then it's off to the races. And so I think that I definitely am not naive to, when you become your own boss, yeah, nobody can fire you, but you can lose everything at the same time if, so
Well, what ends up let me qualify that because
yeah,
that was maybe a bit of a misstatement. If you're a self-employed business owner, every one of your clients is indirectly a small part of being your boss, right? You
sure,
answer to them, right? But like
sure.
generally speaking, what I'm meant by that is that somebody isn't going to change your pay plan on you overnight.
No,
Somebody
of
isn't
course.
going to run you out of business, overnight, especially if it's a business that's built on a whole bunch of different clients, right? But some of the things that you said were skill sets of yours. You're in leadership. You like helping people.
Yeah.
You're a good communicator, right? So these were
Yep.
some of the things that you said.
Yep.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Right.
right?
Yep.
So, whatever form that takes, maybe you're meant to be a mentor. Maybe you're meant to be a coach. Maybe you're meant to give back that way. Maybe that's not your purpose or what you're supposed to be doing for an avocation right now, but maybe that's part of what your life experience is meant to be because we are more than just our job, right?
Hmm.
We've got
Hmm.
people that we connect with and families that we serve and communities that we serve. And so it sounds like I would expect that you'd get some juice out of being a mentor to some degree to someone else that might be coming up. And, the reality of it is that time will tell, but like, I really think you would benefit from that passion and talents kind of exercise, even if you're not, because I asked you the question, let's see if you can answer it now. Do you know what your gifts or talents are that are unique attributes to you that you think are, very strong in you, in your DNA?
I'd probably have to dig a little deeper. I think coming up with a couple answers. I mentioned a few things just right off the top. Like I feel like, I'm good at leading. I'm confident in communicating. I'm confident in establishing processes and I'm confident in helping people or meeting people and listening. I think that's a big thing. I think I try to be as good of a listener and digest as much information as I can having a conversation. So I think there's certain things, but I think this exercise around asking people um and kind of learning a little bit more like retrospective because like you said, like, I know me, right? I've lived with myself for 46 years, but then maybe I don't, maybe there's just some certain things that and it could be both, right? It could be some things that maybe I think I'm good at, but maybe I'm not. And I'd be
Yeah.
open to those conversations too. I'm very humble when it comes to that stuff. Like I tell me the good, bad. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Like I,
That's good. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
good.
I have pretty thick skin, and I'd rather know. I think it's a matter of narrowing down, and going, all right, well, but it's not, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not looking for perfection with it either. I think it's just more of like trying to find a little bit more of a direction.
Yeah.
That's something I think I've, deep down have struggled with is not that I want somebody just to say, hey, here's step one, here's step two, here's step three, here's step four, but it's like, what do I do? And then I get down this rabbit hole of going, well, maybe I'm just not going to do anything, or maybe I'm just going to take, what and I don't want to have, that 1 year turn into another 20. And
Yeah.
then I just don't personally, I don't want to feel that way. It gives me anxiety thinking about that. As opposed to trying a bunch of stuff and failing. Like that doesn't, I don't have fear around that. I think what I'm really nervous about is looking back 20 years and going, oh man, I should have done all this stuff and I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
Now,
No, I get that. I think a
no,
good place to start would be that purpose, that talent exercise. So
yeah.
let's make a note of that. But outside of that, let's bring up another subject. What else are you
Sure.
wrestling with? What else is going on that I might be able to add some context or speak into?
I think that's probably, I mean, honestly, at this point, these are some of the things that are just kind of keeping me up at night and just trying to figure out, hey, what do I want to do with the next 20 years? I mean, honestly, it all boils to that. I mean, there's, um, I think, one of the things that I continue to do is educate myself around, um, some of those things around listening, communicating. I shared a little bit about, really focusing a little bit more on faith and I think ultimately right now, some of the other things are just, being a good husband and being a good father, and I think that has a lot of different challenges and can change minute to minute, Sean. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
what I'm dealing with there is, um, it's a combination of things, and I think communication is the first. I think being patient, being kind, and listening and learning, right? Like I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and it's 1 minute it's the best thing ever, and the next minute it's like, what are we doing, right? So there's a lot of roller coaster riding there, and then being a good husband and providing, I think is a big thing. I think ultimately I want Michelle to have everything she wants and dreams of, right? So I think a lot of that ties into this how do I provide? How do I find this passion to
Yeah.
where, I want to get to a point where I like what you said, where time speeds up, but slows down a little bit with them. But I'm doing stuff that I'm super energized. So when I get done doing that, I can come back and be the best present
Yeah.
person for them. And I think ultimately, I just spend a lot of time thinking about that because that time's flying, and I don't, I want to be, I want my daughter to feel like, I'm her hero, right? Like I'm the best person, like I'm the strongest, I'm the smartest, I'm the, best person, best dad for her. I think that's something that I constantly think about. And then again, just being a great husband for my wife so that she has everything she needs.
So do you feel financial pressure to provide more? Is this more of a pursuit of leveling up financially?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the prioritization? Is it finding your passion and pursuing your passion, or is it finding a way to make more money, even if it may not be passion led?
Well, I would hope it'd be both, right? Like I
Yeah.
would hope I could, and I hope it would be the skills that I've developed in the things that I've done so far could lead to leveling up financially. So, yeah, I think the last 5 years have been kind of so many ups and downs that I just haven't gotten financially to a spot that I really want to be.
What would you
And
name your top five skill sets now in all of this experience in 16 years? Let's say three or five. What are your top 3 to 5 skill sets that you think add the most value to a company, organization, or to people if you're an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think work ethic is number one. Like I'll outwork anybody. I think I'm very coachable. I think that's a good thing to have because you can teach me. I've learned all kinds of different stuff, and I feel like I'm very open to learning, and I'm very humble when it comes to that. I think I can be very um, I think being able to communicate is a big thing. I think I can listen well and I can articulate well and I can get from point A to point B and help somebody get there with me, right? Whether it's in a sales process or a training process. So um, those are probably three that I think kind of pop out when I'm, sitting here. I think organization. I mean, I know how to use systems and I like creating systems. I think being able to implement those systems and follow a process I'm good at. So yeah, those are
Okay.
off the top. I think those are a few that kind of stand out to me. And
Do you use AI, ChatGPT, or an equivalent pretty regularly?
yeah, I use a couple different ones. I test different things with Grok and ChatGPT and
Okay.
yeah.
I
So
would what I would do, here's another exercise I think that you could explore. What I would do is I'd take that top list of 5 things that you think are really honed in skill sets. Okay.
okay,
Then I would take the feedback that you get from the passion talent quiz that you would give to your loved ones, and I would feed that into your favorite, AI interface, whether that's Chat GPT, Croc, Grok, Cloud, whatever you want to do. And I would query it for examples of careers or businesses or that type of a thing that you could consider that with those skill sets and your particular talents might
for
be
sure.
in direct alignment with a specific opportunity. Because sometimes we have a hard time, knowing what we don't know, seeing past our own limited experience on this planet of how we've lived. You may not be even aware that there could be some jobs or businesses that you could start that would be ideally perfect for your skill sets and whatever it is you uncover as your passion or talents. That really is a great brainstorming exercise to open up your mind to maybe other opportunities that you haven't explored yet.
Yeah, no, it's a good suggestion.
I
Yeah.
think that really helps. I use AI mostly to help me think outside the box, brainstorm certain ideas or subjects. and it's such a useful tool because it's not emotional, right? Like
Right.
it's not going to give you, and it's not a friend. It's not somebody that's going to be sensitive to your feelings, and so they withhold back giving you 100% feedback and instead give you 85% feedback because they don't want to hurt your feelings or whatever. It doesn't have any of that, you know?
Yeah,
And then with those prompts, you can explore that even further to determine or ascertain, you know, maybe some better options for you because I do think it'll come. Like for me in my own life, it's just it's taken a while, you know, like I've
sure,
been curious about what my purpose is, but I really only became curious about my purpose once the financial responsibility of raising kids and getting outside of the being the sole provider for a family of six, you know, when that started to wane. Once my kids got older, went off on their own, and then you're kind of now, okay, we did it, mom. We did we raised our kids and they're out of the house. Then I'm like, okay, what now? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? What's
sure.
my life experiences taught me or prepared me for? So it's good that you're doing that. I think it's great that you're thinking about your daughter and thinking about your wife and want to be the best provider for them. And I do think, you know, pursuing money is a worthwhile goal. I will say this though, you know, I've had the fortune of having some seven figure success, making a lot of money in business, and it didn't fill the hole inside me where my body kept going or my spirit kept going. What's your purpose? What's your purpose? In other words, my success almost cost me the most valuable things in my life, right?
Sure.
So financial success can be seductive. It can be something that catches you off guard. For me, my experience was I'd never achieved it, attained it. And when I started to have some six-figure months and started to make some real decent money back in financial services, it made me want to step on the gas to have even more and make more. You know, you gotta sow while you can. You gotta reap what you sow, right? Like you gotta plant the seeds and then harvest it. And I was doing a lot of harvesting, and I didn't know when it was going to end, and it led to me almost for 5 years working 7 days a week to be that provider. And my story inside my head was we had expenses. I had a family of six. I had four boys. We had stuff I had to do. I just had to keep the hammer down and keep going. But it cost me my fitness. It cost me, you know, staying secure and in my faith. You know, I gave up Sundays and gave up church because I needed to work. It cost me friendships that I didn't, you know, foster and develop or continue to develop, and instead I just ignored them. And you know, fast forward 5 or 6 years, you don't talk to somebody for 5 or 6 years, they think that you're not friends anymore, kind of thing, right?
Right.
So you got to be mindful that if you do achieve decent success and you start making a lot of money, just attend to the fact or pay attention to the fact that you don't want it to cost you in other areas of your life, because that was my experience. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, if it does, I will say this, that God knows all his plans are perfect, ours aren't. I feel like I was meant to be the father that I am to my boys for them in their late teens and 20s. They've had more challenges as adults than they ever did as kids. And so if I was going to take some time to maybe, you know, not be as participant in their life at that season, I mean, I didn't design it that way. It just happened that way. You know, I had a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
Myself, my wife, she stayed at home with them, which I'm very grateful and fortunate that she did. But I look back on this and go that God was working on me while he was working on my kids, while he was working on my wife. And the biggest value I've been able to add to my children's lives has been since they've been adults now. And I think they see me differently, you know,
Yeah.
as a result of that. So just don't put too much pressure on yourself, because sometimes that pressure can be stifling and it can make you make concessions or decisions in your life that unattended can cost you dearly, you know?
Yeah. Thanks. I think you put a good bow on it by pressure. I think, you know, I put a lot of just, you know, pressure to just be all these things that we've talked about, right? And yeah, I appreciate you sharing, you know, those stories because I feel like it is important, and I think that's part of it. Is like some of it for me is wanting to be present in every, you know, being able to like walk my daughter to school in the mornings and pick her up in the afternoons and be at home and spend a couple hours and have dinner, you know, and do those things and not not be so consumed with, trying to get to some type of financial status. But I also like, there's things I want, and there's, trips I want to go on. And I think so there is a balance, and I want to pursue all of this with that balance in mind, and that is something that I strongly um, consider when looking at, all right, well, where is something's going to have to give, right? And what do I want that to be as I continue and be patient and try to figure out some of these gifts and ways that I can maybe do both, right? Make the money I want to make, provide the life that I want to provide, and then be passionate about the things I want to do. So
Well, there's a
it's
lot
a
of
lot.
people that, yeah, that do find a way to do that and are successful in that, and I applaud them for that. I just took the messy way around, just with my business and how it was. It just wasn't necessarily obvious to me how to navigate that. And I think once you get deep into, if you start to experience some success, doing at least a yearly audit, how am I doing in these seven key categories? Like I think there's seven. So my definition of success has changed a lot. Okay.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
used to think the definition of success was making a lot of money,
Yeah.
being a seven figure earner, being a provider, being a business owner, having a nice house, having a nice car, the traditional worldly version of success. But once for me, once I had like the best month I ever had in business was I made 380 grand in a December back in 2012. Like what the me making that kind of money? You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
whoa, this is awesome. Whoa, I step on the gas. Let's do more of it.
Yeah.
And, and I lost myself in that process. Because it became harder and harder to generate that. And so now I kind of define success differently because if you make a lot of money and then you're dead by 52 because you had a heart attack or stroke because you were overweight or all that pressure got to you, or if you make a lot of money but you're dead spiritually, or you make a lot of money but you're divorced because you couldn't attend to your family or whatever, that's not my definition of success, right? So
Sure.
I think that there's seven key areas that people need to pay attention to: faith, family, friends, fitness, field, fun, and finances. Faith, family, friends, fitness, field, fun, finance. Those key areas, okay? If you do an audit yearly, okay, am I paying attention to my family? Do I have any soured relationships? How am I doing financially? What's my job? Am I having fun still? One of the biggest markers for me is I'm not very a fun person, right? And I've always been as an entrepreneur, I've always been in business. I've always felt the pressure of performing and making money, which fun just seemed discretionary. But what kind of a life is it that if you never have fun? You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's
Yeah.
like doing this audit, where am I on a scale of 0 to 10? Asking yourself some probing questions. That will help you to kind of stay on track, to not get way off into left field, kind of like I was. But, that's the best advice I can give you because people have ruined their lives by failing in their mind. But I think there's an equal number of people out there that have ruined their lives by achieving some success and then thinking they have the Midas touch or thinking that other things that used to matter don't matter anymore, and I think that's unfortunate.
Yep. No, I agree. Agree. And I think those are good seven pillars, right? To be able to get that audit going and making sure you're covering your basis. So I appreciate you sharing that stuff with me.
No problem. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking some
Yeah.
time with me today to do this. Was this helpful to you?
Yeah, it gives me a lot to, I think obviously thank you for listening, right? Like that's a big thing to just allow me to share, certain things and stuff that's on my mind, or but then also, giving me some tools, giving me some suggestions, being able to kind of help in terms of pointing me in certain things, and obviously validating some of the things that I have thought, and giving me some options and some ways to kind of do a little bit more discovery. So yeah, no, very helpful, and I appreciate it a ton. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.